Waiting for Andreas. Dr. Schleicher. He's not yet online.
We probably have to wait for a couple of minutes. I think we still have some people haven't getting on.
DJ 来了 ，DJ 给露个脸。
Hello DJ, nice to see you. 因为你要盯一下那个Andreas 是不是上来？
哎 DJ，
Hi DJ。
Hello。
DJ 好。
好，大家好。Hello。
安妮is also online。
陈校长您好。
Hello。
黄老师您好，谢谢您邀请一起，谢谢丁文老师。
现在可开心了是吧？
还挺好的。对。
Dr. Schleicher, you are online.
Yes, hello, how are you?
So nice to see you again.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for joining us.
Yes.
Okay, it's a pleasure.
Yeah, we know you have a very tight schedule. Thanks. Haven't seen you for a while.
Yes, it's true, but I'm glad I can join you now. It's a very good occasion.
I'm in Moscow.
Yeah.
Hope you will come in the future.
I just had a video conference with the Minister of Education in Russia just yesterday. Sergei
I was
Kravchuk.
not aware of that.
Yeah.
What was the topic?
It's just our ways of collaboration on the PISA and also on the COVID responses in Russia to the COVID crisis. And he was very interested in what other countries are doing. So lots of things to talk about.
Okay. That's great.
And when the time for my presentation comes, you need to give me the permission for my screen sharing.
Okay, and I think my colleague Ting Wen will upload your PPT.
Yes, I will.
Ting Wen will do that.
Actually, it will be easier for me, I think, if I share it myself, because there are many clicks in there that.
Okay.
You want to upload by yourself?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. If you have any problems, I can support it from our side.
Joseph is online. Dr. South.
Joseph haven't.
Joseph 今天他去办公室来做这个 webinar， 所以他跟我说可能要迟到几分钟，马上就在路上了已经。
蓝老师有一个老师像Oboto。
Yes, from Kenya University. Is he online?
I'm not yet actually, because he kind of messed up the time actually. I tried to send him the email.
He's online, Albert.
Already? Okay.
Yeah, Albert. Hello, Albert.
Robert?
I think it must be him.
Robert. Where is Robert?
Oboko. Yeah, Professor Oboko.
Oboko, could you where are you?
I see his name. I think must be him.
No,
I see his name. Albert is not him. Somewhere else. But I think he will join later. Yeah.
Okay.
We can start now.
Okay, so we should start.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so we have 70 people online already. Okay, people online. Thank you for attending our the webinar today. And before we start today's webinar, some reminder we want to remind you. And please show your full name and the countries in your own. Try to rename on your own the nickname of your own. And please mute your microphone and close your video while you are not presenting. If you have any questions, please leave your questions in the text area. We will find a chance to respond to your questions soon. And if you want to share your PPT, prepare at your computer and click the share button to share your slides. And now we are welcome to our today's moderator, Dr. Yang, our project expert of Smart Learning Institute of Beijing Normal University, and he is also the professor of Hangzhou Normal University. Dr. Yang is our very important expert in SLI. So please welcome our moderator today. Yeah.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Director Tao Zhan, Director Ronghua Huang, and Dejian Liu, and our distinguished guests and friends from all over the world. Welcome to our international webinar. This is Junfeng Yang. It's my great honor to host today's webinar on how to protect your personal data and privacy on online learning. Currently, in our educational crisis situation, lots of students have to learn online. Therefore, a large amount of personal data is shared, and the hidden risks of personal data security are exposed. Personal data and privacy protection have never been so urgent like today, and it has been listed as UNESCO as one of the biggest challenges. Therefore, how to protect the personal data and privacy in online learning is become an important issue for students, teachers, and parents. Next slide. Next slide, please. In fact, this is the 5th webinar after the topics of flexible learning, active learning at home, higher education, as well as open educational resources during campus closures. We have also released the 4 handbooks regarding these topics. Here you can find the download links for the multi-languages of those handbooks. And next slide. This webinar is organized by the UNESCO IITE, the UNESCO INRULED, ALASCO, SLIBNU, IASLE, and Edmodo. Now I'd like to introduce our speakers today, Mr. Tao Zhan, Mr. Andreas Schleicher, Ms. Xiaoyun Wang, Mr. Ronghua Huang, Mr. Dejian Liu, Mr. Dennis Capelli Schleicher, Mr. Lixin, and also Mr. Joseph Sauce, Mr. Yu, Mr. Sergey Bazativ, Mr. Robert Abaco, Mr. Wei Ping Sun, Miss Shan Pa, Mr. Tie Tao Guo, and also welcome our old and new friends who are attending to today's meeting. And this is the agenda for today. And I'm sure for this 2 hours, we will have a very fruitful and meaningful presentation and discussion. And now let's go to the first remarks. Please welcome to Dr. Tao Zhan, the director of UNESCO IITE, to give us welcome remarks. Dr. Zhan, now it's your turn, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. And dear Dr. Andrew Schleicher, and Professor Wang Xiaoyun, and dear experts, colleagues, participants sitting in front of the screen, welcome you all to today's webinar organized jointly by UNESCO Institute IITE based in Moscow and the UNESCO International Center INRULED based in Beijing and other partners. And the topic today we are going to discuss is how to protect personal data privacy it is not a new topic. However, as the chair just said, it has never been so urgent, even critical, as it is like today. As during the COVID pandemic, the online education has been so dramatically expanding. Even now, every day we see a different picture. So UNESCO is taking collective actions during the COVID pandemic with its partners, including, for instance, OECD and other partners. And personal data, privacy and protection is among the top challenges and also the top tasks for all of us. And UNESCO Institute IITE has been working together with our partners on this topic for a while. As an example, not long ago, we published a technical guide entitled Personal Data Security Technical Guide for Online Education Platform, in partnership with the research team led by Professor Wang Xiaoyun at Tsinghua University, and supported by experts from other universities like Shanghai Jiaotong and international online education service providers like Microsoft, Blackboard, Alibaba, and Tencent. So it's a collective work. And today, a number of colleagues working on this publication also are here with us. And another action is leading by Professor Huang and his team is a new guidance on, it's a very practical and useful guidance for teachers, students, and even parents on how to better protect their data and privacy. And today's webinar is again a good example of a collective action. It offers an opportunity for us to share our ideas and views and practice on this important topic. And the speakers and the participants we invite are from 3 different groups. The first one is international organizations. In addition to UNESCO, we have OECD, particularly Dr. Andreas Schleicher, who is leading the education sector in OECD. As you are aware, OECD is a leader, global leader, not just in economy, but also in education. I just learned you are going to create a new coalition on artificial intelligence, maybe next week. It's so exciting. And as we draft the technical guide on personal data security, your document is used among the key references for us. So we are very glad to have you, Dr. Anders, with us. And also we have Dr. Joseph South, representing IITE, based in the States. This is the first group. The second group, we have professors and researchers from universities. In addition to Professor Wang Xiaoyun, we have professors from Shanghai Jiaotong, from professors from Russia and Kenya in Africa. And the third one is also very important. They are experts from the online education technical providers. And we have speakers from Blackboard, Alibaba, and Tencent. So this nice collective work or multi-sector collaboration is very important for us, not just on the discussion, but also for taking concrete actions. So I'm looking forward to a very inspiring discussion today, and I'm sure that it will be a very productive and inspiring webinar like everyone we had before. Thank you very much, and back to you, Dr. Yang.
Thank you, Director Dan. Your support is always appreciated and important to us. Now we are going to the next important event. We have invited Mr. Andreas Schleicher Director of Education and Skills Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. Mr. Schleicher supports the OECD Secretary General's strategy to produce analysis and policy advice that advances economic growth and social progress. He promotes the work of the Directorate of Education and Skills on the global stage and fosters the cooperation within and outside the OECD. Now let's welcome Mr. Andreas.
Thank you so much, Dr. Yang, and also Dr. Zhan. It's a pleasure to work with you again. And the topic that you have chosen couldn't be more relevant. And I guess it's all a question of how we reconcile benefits of online learning and data privacy. Is not one or the other, is about achieving both together. If we look at the well-being of children today, we have to think of technology to be an integral part of the well-being of children. And we can say that some things have become easier over the last years. We have generally better educated parents who play a better role in children's life, but also take care of technology. We have safer environments. Also, I think technology is becoming safer, even if the risks are increasing. And but also we have things that make the life of children more difficult. Cyberbullying is obviously the most obvious threat here, the one where in the past bullying would have happened in school, and now it follows you 24 hours every day. And children have to do more and more and have less time. All of this is framing childhood. You know, you can think about, you know, a decade ago, children got those little devices in their hands. A few years later, the real world and the virtual world being integrated, and suddenly everyone got connected. And of course, we all know the smartphone really become an essential part of children's. Basically, data from the United Kingdom, if you think about 8-year-olds, you can see that 35% have their own smartphone, almost half have their own tablet. 93% go online. Even if you go to 3- and 4-year-olds, you have probably 50% of children online. So for adults, you know, data protection and cybersecurity is one thing. For small children, it's obviously quite a challenge. But the things that we also saw when we surveyed 50-year-olds in PISA is that in most countries, half of the boys and girls say they are really bad if they're not connected to the internet. So being connected has now become like drinking water and breathing air, and that shows you how, you know, the digital world and the real world are completely merged, and therefore cybersecurity is increasingly important. When you look at digital trends, you know, on the upsides, you know, opening up new worlds of learning, it's easier to make friends for children, and children also can generate their own content in ways they could have never done in the past, but they are exposed to risks. There is also the second digital divide open, and children are more and more becoming just passive consumers of prefabricated content. It's increased time spent online as a user. Actually, you just saw this. We have the rise of the Internet of Things and artificial intelligence that pushes us to think works as human. And again, this learning plays a very important role. Introductory environment makes happiness of children. Obviously,
I'm sorry, Heather. I'm sorry.
Yes.
It's we cannot hear very clearly. Maybe we can ask Dean to share the slides, and I'm not sure why it's not very clearly hear your voice here.
Maybe I switch off audio. I did the answer to just see whether the bandwidth is the problem. Let me just
your
see.
video? Yeah, could you try to close your video first?
Yes, I did. So I hope it will work better now.
Yeah, we can try. Please do.
Yes, okay. So even, some of the world's leading education systems are having big issues of poor life satisfaction, but we can see it's not just a matter of academic pressure.
Sorry.
Okay. And when we actually look at this in greater detail, what we could see is actually that high internet use is also often a factor that is threatening the life satisfaction of young people. So it's obviously time to look into this. And this is really, I think, what I want to do, look at the benefits and the drawbacks. If you look at the benefits of education, artificial intelligence opens up, entirely new possibilities for experiential learning, for hands-on pedagogies, for also more cooperative learning environment, and for interactive and metacognitive pedagogies. And we should not forget that these are opportunities that will make education more granular, more relevant, more interesting for our children. And there is, of course, you can deal with the online risks to our protection, and obviously for younger children, for older children, it is very important to develop transferable skills that allow a more meaningful engagement. And I think that's very, very important. The kind of privacy is not just about the data side, it's also about the skill side. It's about operational skills, basically managing content. It's about critical information skills. When we did our last PISA assessment, we found just about 1 in 10 children being able to distinguish fact from opinion. So critical information skills is very, very important. And then last but not least, the social skills that you need to work with people who are different from you on the kind of digital environments. When you think about, very small children, 5 to 7-year-olds, they often have some sense of privacy rules, but they struggle to comprehend the consequences. You can't really hold them responsible for what they are doing. When you look to 8 to 11-year-olds, we know that basically the application of rules can be effective. And then 12 to 17-year-olds, is much greater awareness of privacy risks. They also have usually a good sense of the risks and opportunities, but we clearly see that they focus on the short-term benefits rather than the long-term risks. So if I can, open up an account and, provide some personal data and have some benefit today, that's what I'm likely going to do. There is some really good analysis that even for 12 to 17-year-olds, privacy is still a very, very important issue. Now, how can we deal with this? First of all, we have more and more data in online learning, and the COVID crisis has amplified this. This is about personal data, information that can support inference about the identity of someone. And it could be directly or it could be indirectly. We use personal data for accountability and research requirements very clearly. We have increasing, involvement of technology in data service providers, and there's regulation now in the European Union, GDPR, and so on. And what is also clear is that there are potential harms in the event of privacy breaches. It could be, profiling. It could lead to discrimination. It could lead to commercial uses, and so on. So I think those things need to be kept in mind. What I want to say, however, is despite all of these risks, the use of personal data is absolutely central to some of the benefits that basically education in the modern world, in the digital age, is about now. If you want to have more personalized teaching and more learning, more granular and relevant feedback, that's all about the use of personal data, the analysis of personal data, and to bring it back. That's the strength of AI-based learning, so we don't want to lose that. It's also a stronger knowledge base about effective policies and programs. So I think on the one hand, those integrated data systems raise the capacity for data-informed decision-making, but also they raise the importance and the stakes for data protection. That's really what we need to find as the right balance. What we also find in the OECD is that traditional solutions to data privacy are no longer very effective. We talk about them, but the impact is very limited. For example, You know, one of the things that you do is you limit data access for people outside your own agency, out of the school, out of the ministry. But in the end, you're going to exclude many of the benefits and many of the stakeholders that matter. You know, some say, well, just make informed consent, let people agree whether they use their data. But we all know that, you know, people just click whatever checkbox there is, and then, you know, the data is gone. So I think those kind of approaches are no longer really working well. And then the big data environments raises entirely new kind of challenges. Basically, we no longer know in advance how data may or may not be used. The personal and non-personal data are no longer so easy to distinguish. And again, many of the data are being repurposed downstream in ways that we cannot anticipate today. That means really what we are currently doing in terms of traditional solutions is no longer that effective. So what can we do instead? I think the first point I want to make is taking a risk-based approach. And that's something that the OECD has quite a bit of work on in our work on security risk management. And it starts with accepting that there is always going to be a residual privacy risk. Whenever you release data, whenever you evaluate data, whenever you adopt, you know, data protection legislation, you never eliminate that risks entirely. So what we need to be is to be focused on the context and the processes, be aware of the threats, the harms, the controls at each cycle of the data release. And whenever data comes out, you know, what are the potential consequences? And also to be aware of the uses of education data that apply. Now, one of the things that we tried many times in education is to, you know, when we want to use data from former students, we cannot reach them. Essentially, you know, that is not something practical. And also the sharing of education data among different government agencies can still be very difficult, even statistical agencies and so on. I think that's something where, you know, taking a risk-based approach upfront is the only workable solution. And then also it's important to combine data-focused and governance-focused solutions. Now, on the data-focusing side, basically you can, sorry?
All right, maybe.
I don't
okay, I'm sorry, maybe now it's the time, please quickly.
Yes, I will be finished in just 1 minute. You can, first of all, you know, de-identify data. We do a lot on data suppression, randomization, and so on, but you lose valuable information. You can also have public use micro-level files. Now, that's also something that we are quite familiar with in the OECD to do this. On the governance side, there is physical and IT security. There are multi-layered access models. I think something that we also find quite effective. You basically agree in advance who can use what data in which way. There is access under supervised conditions. Some countries have used that quite successfully. And of course, there is, you know, building greater awareness, better training, communication. I think those are tools that we can use. If I just sort of wrap up in terms of a few conclusions, again, you know, our privacy policies should preserve the analytical value of data. I think that's very, very important that we don't, you know, throw out the baby with the bathwater. Risk management is the right approach in our view. The kind of traditional approaches, even, you know, consent by individuals are no longer working very well. We should strike a good balance between data-focused and governance-focused strategies, and always, you know, keep one step ahead of understanding the threats and solutions. So those are my conclusions. I'm sorry if the sound was not so great. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for your great presentation, Mr. Andreas. And now we have Ms. Xiaoyun Wang, academician from the Chinese Academy of Science and also professor from Tsinghua University. Ms. Xiaoyun Wang is a Chinese cryptographer and computer scientist. He has made a significant contribution to cryptology. In 2019, she was named as a fellow of the International Association for Cryptologic Research for essential contributions to the cryptanalysis and the design of hash function and for the service to IACR. Now let's welcome Peace.
Thanks for the moderator. Thank Professor Zhan for organizing the webinar. Dear experts and friends, sorry, my voice is bad. Good day. It is a very interesting and important topic today. During the COVID pandemic, more and more teachers and students use online platforms for teaching and learning. Meanwhile, people are much concerned over their personal data and privacy. When using these DPPs, cryptography could help to protect the security of personal information. We are in the very important historical period of application of cryptography today. Actually, information security covers data confidentiality, authentication, non-repudiation, and integrity. Confidentiality means the sensitive information cannot be captured by unauthorized parties after encryption. Authentication and non-repudiation means that information is indeed created by the claimed party and cannot be denied. Integrity ensures that data are original and it detects the fact of any change, even if only by one bit. Today, cryptography also plays the very important and irreplaceable role in the blockchain technology. In history, cryptography served for military and political purposes. Today, cryptographic algorithms are extended to various communication areas, such as wireless communications, mobile network, Internet of Things, Internet of Vehicles, and it is also used in many economic fields, such as digital finance, industrial control, electric grid, as well as in other important areas, such as big data, cloud computing, smart city, and AI. Therefore, the construction of cryptographic infrastructure is critical for the security of personal data in online learning. We are very glad to work together with UNESCO Institute, IITE, on this topic. Finally, hope we have a successful webinar. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Mr. Xiaoyun, Wang. And now let's proceed to the next event. The event includes two parts. The first part is to present personal data and privacy protection in online learning, guidance for students, teachers, and parents. This guidance book is leading by the co-deans of Smart Learning Environment, Professor Ronghua Huang and Professor Dejian Liu, as well as the support from UNESCO, IITE. And today, the first presentation for this handbook will be presented by our co-dean, Dejian Liu, and Dr. Lixin Zhu. Now let's welcome Dr. Dejian Liu to give us the address for this handbook first. Please, Deji.
Hello, everyone, friends around the world. It's a great honor, and I'm very happy to have actually a print-out version of our handbook, the personal data and privacy protection in online learning, guidance for students, teachers, and parents. You know, when you print out, it's a big book, and it has a lot of valuable information. Some of them, I mean, when reading through them, even give me a sense of international spy. You know, in some of the instruction we provide, I think is almost up to that kind of level, such as turn off your phone, remove your battery. It's more like a spice movie. But nonetheless, it is become very sensitive and important that students, particularly students, and of course the teachers, they know the importance of protecting themselves in this online environment. And some of the suggestion procedure are rather straightforward. For example, a strong password, and this is I think become more and more important for people to recognize that, and easy to take precaution there. But some other steps are difficult. For example, the protection of the GPS service, the location service. So that part, many people didn't realize the potential damage they could suffer by the leakage of the GPS information. And on another angle into it is that in the early days, people are worried about leakage of text information, some in the form of the address or something you said. But nowadays, with a lot of video coming in, the leakage of coming from the video side is potentially of a greater danger, especially now with the facial recognition and many other software or many identity based on facial recognitions. So the video information, the protection of your video information is becoming, I think, more and more at least interesting. And the third part I'd like to share personally is that it's a very gray area when we talk about is the importance of protecting our personal privacy, personal data. But like Professor Schneider mentioned earlier on, those data might also including the learning activities. Some of the data are being used properly to offer better educational experiences and the better personal educational service. So that's the proper use of it. And also, if possible, some of the data could be used for research. But those data also can be considered very personal. In a sense, it might, give it to the wrong hand, wrong people, it might create damage to the data owner. So I think that's a sort of a gray area. I personally was hoping, of course, that the world people can benefit more by allowing a certain amount of access to their personal data. So that way, the AI, artificial intelligence, and many other services out there could actually provide better educational service. But that's one of my personal interest in this subject. So that's it for me. Thank you. And thank you for everyone to putting such a great work and a lot of support from all the organizations involved. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, DJ. And now let's invite Mr. Lixin Zhu to present the further content of our handbook. Please, Lixin.
Okay. It's an honor for me to present the report, Personal Data and Privacy Protection in Online Learning, Guidance for Students, Teachers, and Parents. So the data is released by UNESCO on April 5th. At that time, it's the peak of COVID-19 virus outbreak. And the pandemic is not impacting more than 1.5 billion learners worldwide. And more than 90% of total enrolled learners worldwide is staying away from school due to the COVID-19 crisis. And more than, in fact, there 194 countries have ordered nationwide school closures, spanning Asia, Europe, the Middle East, and the North and the South America. In fact, the pandemic has forced students of all ages to move to online learning. So the UNESCO recommended some kind of online platform like the Century and Google Classroom, the Schoology, and the Model Class Studio. In fact, I think the online learning is generally become a norm for lifelong learners, and more people and more students move to the online learning platform. So even for excellent online learning platforms such as Zoom and Academy, still are facing the possibility of data linkage. For example, in the Zoom platform, over 500,000 Zoom accounts are being sold on the dark web and the hacker forums. And also, the another platform, Academy, online platform Academy has suffered a data breach, and the account details of its 22 million users have been put up for sale on the dark web page. So I think yeah, it's very necessary to protect personal data and privacy in online learning. So what is personal data? It covers a lot of information, in fact, from the identification, biologics, authenticating, and medical and healthy, professional information, and financial information, communication information, and contact information, and we will log on the devices, hardware devices, the hardware serial number, the software IP, etc. A lot of information that is belongs to the personal data. And what is privacy? Privacy is the tranquility of a private life of a natural person and the private space, private activities, and private information that is unwilling to be known to others. So specifically, I think privacy can be divided into 4 categories. So physical, the informational, decisional, and the positional. So so in order to protect their personal data and privacy, a lot of countries and organizations issued a lot of acts and regulations worldwide. For example, in the United Nations in 2013 issued legislation, so the right to privacy in the digital age, which regulates that the right held by people offline must also be protected online. And it called upon all countries to respect and protect the right to privacy in digital communication. So the possible risks on the typical steps of online learning. When you first prepare to study, then you prepare the devices, the network, and the tools, the signing up in on learning platforms, the navigating learning platforms daily, and learning with social network services. After all that, the Indian course of finish online learning. So there are a lot of possible risks during the studying or learning process. So in order to protect personal data and privacy in online learning, we designed a guideline for students, teachers, and parents. So which the content mainly consists of 7 parts. The first is to realize the urgency for personal data protection in online learning. And the second part is understanding personal data and privacy during learning online. Chapter 3 is proprietary devices, network, and tools, like before you study, the setting up of your devices, managing networking connections on device, and selecting and installing learning tools and other operations. The chapter 4 is to preserve privacy when signing up on learning platforms like our co-dean Dejian has already mentioned that using strong passwords to create accounts and signing a device that is not yours. The chapter 5 is protecting privacy when navigating learning platforms. And the chapter 6 is staying safe while learning with the social networking services, like the usually using the video conference tools with coursing and posting in forums responsibly, and also surfing the internet safely. The last step is that when you finish all the online study, please remember to clearing all the personal information after learning online, to removing the data traces in online learning and deactivating your account. So the conclusion, to be cautious of privacy protection before online learning and preserving personal data when logging in learning platform. First is to protecting personal privacy when navigating learning platforms, like keeping personal data safe when using social network tools for learning. And the last step is clearing personal data after finishing online learning. So this is our team. Thank you.
Thank you, Lixin. And this guidance book will be you could download this handbook from the website of Smart Learning Institute later. And now let's go on to the next event, the presentation on personal data security, technical guide for online education platforms, presented by Mr. Dennis Kapelius-Schnick, the program specialist from UNESCO IITE. Now it's your turn, Dennis.
Dear colleagues, hello. Please let me know if you see my presentation.
Yes, we can.
Great, thank you. First of all, I would like to thank my colleagues. I'm really happy to share this platform with so many acknowledged speakers. And I will basically present to you the guide that complements the publication that was previously presented by my colleagues. It's also on personal data protection and privacy, but it relates more to technical specialists, to platform supporters, and IT specialists. So myself, I come from UNESCO IITE, and I work in the Digital Pedagogy and Learning Materials unit, and our unit contributed to the preparation of the guide. And here in IITE, in our unit, we focus on open educational resources, media information literacy, new forms of credentialing, and education management information systems. Yes, EMIS can be considered an online education platform, but we did not cover them in this guide, as it is a whole different thing. It requires another more specific approach to personal data protection. Most probably it's physically localized and requires an encrypted USB stick to get access to any data belong to students. For example, here in Russia, it is quite strict, and an institution has to be certified by law enforcement or other types of assurance. So we did not cover this type of online education platforms. I will explain a bit later what we consider it as an online education platform. Yes, of course, before preparing the guide, we have done some research on materials prepared by other organizations. For example, our colleagues from OECD, they have released a publication on protection of children online and their data back in 2012, and we have considered their experience as well as other UN agencies like UNICEF, ITU, and UNDP. And as well, we, as it is related to IT specialists, we covered ISO standards to provide universally acknowledged terminology and definitions. So this personal data security technical guide for online education platforms, you can see it's cover on the screen in this presentation. We developed it in partnership with the research team led by Professor Wang at Tsinghua University. And other contributors were professors from Shanghai Jiaotong University, Shandong University, and technical experts from Microsoft, Alibaba, Tencent, Inspur, and Blackboard. So we have pretty much a very well-known and very professional team of experts that contributed to the preparation of our technical guide. As I said, it is designed for service providers, but as well it can help to educational stakeholders, because all in all, the goal of this technical guide is to promote the rights to privacy of teachers and students of all ages and protection of their personal data. And it aims to provide technical recommendations that are compliant with university acknowledged security principles and advanced data security technologies. So as well as to help improve overall security of online education platforms and personal data management and protection. So additionally, beyond providing the frontline support to individuals and communities during the COVID-19 outbreak, it will assist educational authorities to ensure the personal data security and online education with respect to national and international regulations. So what we consider, what we covered in this personal guide, these online education platforms, they relate to webcasting. So for example, Zoom that we are using right now is refers to this category. Also, it was online learning management systems that are very popular among educational institutions, and now is considered as basically as a necessity for online education, not only for online education, but education in general. So of course, it's MOOC platforms, well-known like Coursera, edX, and basically other national platforms. And of course, communication tools. It can be chats, so online chat apps like WhatsApp or WeChat and many others. To security risks, we categorize them as technical, that belong to hardware management, that belong to the control of the data, and of course user operational risks, as basically still a lot of risks of losing data or given unauthorized access to it belongs to users themselves, and that's what we covered in our guide as well. So in the recommended technical solution sections of the guide, we cover the data lifecycle from data collection through its transmission, usage, storage, and finally to data destruction. And of course, we cover recommendations on access control and key management. I would like to stress that it's a recommendation. We would find this very useful that authorities and solution providers would follow them in their daily work. As for recommended security management, we provide our audience with guidelines on planning, monitoring, and incident management that might be useful not only for service providers, but for educational authorities as well. These recommendations will be helpful for to arrange different assurance procedures that are quite necessary if we deal with large-scale educational platforms. Not only in large scales, but they are very important. And I mentioned, and my colleagues already mentioned, that people are getting started to acknowledge the importance of strong passwords and their personal responsibility in their personal data privacy and protection. And we have a section of our guide devoted to awareness raising, first of all, in promotion through curriculum and formal education, but as well as digital citizen education and promotion through public engagement. That's actually what we're doing right now. And our colleagues from INRULED, they complemented our guide. So as we aim to target service providers, they are more focused on general public, and that's a very good thing that we complement with these two guides. We complement each other, and we can help more broader audience to in their personal data privacy and protection. So our guide is available at our portal in the publication sections. You can see the link there to the guide where you can download it. But if you look in general at our publication section, you will see more publications related to online education, open educational resources, and many more useful resources on COVID-19 that we're dealing right now. So I would be glad that you visit our website and find useful information there. So thank you, colleagues. Thank you for the time allowed for me to present. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dennis, for your wonderful presentation. And I think the two guidance books can provide us some very useful information on the personal data protection and the personal risk protection. And that's the first section. And now we will move to the next session, the experience sharing session. And each expert will reflect on how to protect personal data and privacy in online learning. Due to the time limitation, please control your time for 8 to 10 minutes. If the time is ended, we will try to remind you. If you want, you can open the camera for your presentation. For the other audience, if you have any question, please leave your question in the text area. We will find any chance to respond to your question. And now let's start our sharing today. The first one is Mr. Joseph Sauce, the Chief Learning Officer from International Society for Technology in Education, USA. Now it's your turn, Joseph.
Hello, everyone. It's wonderful to be here. I'd like to thank UNESCO INRULED and UNESCO IITE and the Smart Learning Institute of Beijing Normal University for inviting me. It's great to see lots of old friends here. Dr. Wang, Dr. Tao Zhang, Dr. Dejian, Dr. Tingwen Zhang, and to present alongside other very famous and important academics like Xiaoyun Wang and Andreas Schleicher is a privilege for me. I just would like to spend a little bit of time talking about ISTE and how we help students, educators, and leaders protect privacy. If you don't know ISTE, ISTE is an international organization dedicated to inspiring educators worldwide to use technology effectively. And we are known as the Learning First, Technology Second EdTech organization because we focus on the pedagogy and the fundamental growth of students and using technology to accelerate that growth. When we think about privacy, we think about it more broadly. We think broadly about how are we preparing young people to be digital citizens. Young people today will spend a great deal of their life in the digital world. A lot of their social identity will be developed not just face-to-face, but online. And so we have to look comprehensively at what they need to do to prepare to thrive in a digital world. And that has several aspects. It includes them learning how to be inclusive online, engaged online, informed, balanced, and alert. And when we think about privacy, we think about that as being part of being alert in a student's digital identity. So a lot of times when we talk about digital citizenship or being online, we focus a lot on the fear. We focus a lot on what you should not do if you are online. But we also want to focus on the do's, what you should do online, how you can be proactive online. So some of the things that we recommend as part of our ISTE standards is to update account passwords, to review the location settings on devices. I had an educator friend who realized that her weather app was tracking her location 24/7. There's no need for your weather application to be tracking you to that degree. And they were simply collecting that data to resell it. There's also reviewing the privacy settings and understanding terms of service and what is being collected. Checking for software updates. As you know, software updates is one of the best ways to prevent against privacy breaches, but it's not really something that we think about in terms of increasing our privacy protection. Cleaning up our apps, apps that we're not using, to make sure that there's nothing left on our phones that's gathering data that shouldn't. And then creating positive digital footprints. This is another thing that I think is often overlooked. It's not just what the settings on your apps are, but young people are constantly sharing information online. And as they do so, they open themselves up to privacy concerns. And so we have to teach them what is appropriate to share, what is appropriate not to share. How do you keep yourself safe in being online, but without sharing personal information that could compromise you? One of the exercises that we recommend to educators as part of the ISTE standard for digital citizenship is that we ask students to open up their devices and review their privacy settings. And for many students, this is the first time that they've ever done this. And they are shocked to realize how much data these apps are collecting. And some of them find that their game apps are collecting their location, or have access to all of their friends' contact information. And they had no idea that this was the case. But another really interesting thing emerges when you do this exercise is after they realize that these games and these social platforms are collecting all this data, then they have to decide, are they going to keep playing that game? Are they going to keep engaging in that social platform? And some of them say, I don't like it, but I really like the game, so I don't want to delete it. And that teaches another level that we need to engage students in, which is how do we teach them to value their privacy, to understand the impact and implications of their privacy? So it's not enough just to know what to do, they also have to value it. All this teaching that I'm describing is part of the ISTE standards. We have them for students, educators, and leaders. And they are an international standard for using technology effectively and safely. And we help prepare educators, students, and leaders to be responsible digital citizens through all of the various activities of ISTE, from our professional learning, our seal of alignment for solution providers. As was stated earlier, the solution platforms also have to adhere by these guidelines. And so we have a seal, a certification that their platform is safe and does protect privacy. And it's important for people to know that which platforms adhere by best privacy practices and which don't. And so ISTE is one of the organizations that certifies that internationally. We also have events and we have publishing. So for example, at ISTE-U, which is our online learning portal, you can take a course on digital citizenship where an educator can learn how to apply the principles of digital citizenship in their classroom and in their school. And as part of that course, they go through an exercise where they review the policies of their classroom and the policies of their school to make sure that they're adhering to privacy requirements. Now, during COVID, ISTE has released 4 micro courses to assist educators in coping with online learning. And part of those micro courses talk about designing online learning experiences, where we talk about data privacy and prepare students in the COVID era to protect data privacy, in particular while students are online. If you would like to know more about ISTE's work here or access more of our resources, we invite you to join our WeChat group, which is led by Annie Ning, who is our China Asian Affairs Director at ISTE, and Julie Chen, who is our ISTE China consultant. And then we also invite you to follow our official WeChat account, where you can find an article about Zoom data privacy and learn more about the important topic of data privacy today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Joseph, for your information and the digital citizenship and other topics. And now let's move on to the next one. Let's welcome Mr. Yu Yu, professor from Department of Computer Science and Engineering, Shanghai Jiaotong University. His research focuses on cryptography with more than 20 publications at flag conferences. Now it's your time, Mr. Yu Yu.
Thanks for the introduction. Please let me know if you don't hear me or if you cannot see the slides.
Yeah, we can see.
Okay. Today I'm honored to have this opportunity to talk about cryptography and how it is used to protect the privacy of online education platforms. So what is cryptography, essentially, and how it is defined? In the ancient times, when the only application of cryptography is secure communication, for example, between the army and the headquarters. So the definition then was as simple as this. But nowadays, cryptography is used almost everywhere in our daily life. So in broader sense, crypto can capture any problem described as allowing the good guys to do something useful, such as video conferencing, e-learning, while preventing the bad guys from disrupting it in some way. So it's quite open and really depends on the application. What are the security concerns that cryptography addresses? So we listed out here the attributes of information security. Yeah, confidentiality is concerned with like, could someone read my data during the transmission? Integrity answers the question that has the data been changed during the transmission? And authentication asks questions like, if this guy is really the guy who claims to be. And non-repudiation refers to the situation where someone writes you a check for payment, but later on he denies or refuses to honor it. These are the typical problems we encounter in practice, and cryptography offers technical solutions to these problems. So let's look at confidentiality first. So concerns is really that an eavesdropper can tap on the channel and intercept the message. So the cryptographic solution is encryption. The sender and the receiver, in this case, Cindy and the server, they can negotiate on a secret key in advance. And I mean, this can be done, but I would omit the details here due to lack of time. And then Cindy the sender sends the encrypted message through the server for Alice, the recipient, to decrypt the message. The server who intercepts the ciphertext is not able to decrypt without the secret key. So confidentiality is preserved. But we would ask this question in certain scenarios. In some cases, even the server is not trustworthy, or it's just compromised. And in this case, we have to use the so-called end-to-end encryption. I mean, in this setting, all the parties, they are connected through a compromised server. So they can first establish a shared secret, and then Cindy, the sender, sends the encrypted messages through the server for Alice, right? And to decrypt the message. And the server can intercept the ciphertext, but he is not able to decrypt without the secret key. What he sees is really like random noise. And this is the recent news about end-to-end encryption. And early this year, Zoom was criticized for not offering end-to-end encryption service. So they quickly moved, migrated to a new version with end-to-end encryption in place. Now it's free for use for all. It's all free now. And let me remind you that protect the confidentiality is not simply applying encryption, but also to do it the right way. Recently, it was reported that Zoom was not using was actually using AES in ECB mode, which is insecure. Here, AES is short for Advanced Encryption Standard. So what is ECB? I would not dig into the details, but the idea is that an encryption algorithm, such as AES, only encrypt data of fixed length. That means we call blocks. And in applications such as video conference, the data stream can be very long, arbitrarily long. So ECB mode simply chops them into blocks and then encrypt them independently. I mean, this is good for efficiency for parallelism, but bad for security. Because as we can see, it preserves the patterns. As you see, the left image was the original message. And it encrypts to the one in the middle, which obviously leaks information. So the solution is to use a secure mode of encryption, which would lead to the picture on the right, which looks like random noise. Okay, now let's see how to achieve the integrity of the message. So an active adversary can always intercept and alter the message arbitrarily. And the cryptographic solution is digital signature or message authentication. And here I would use digital signature as an example. So still, Cindy, the sender, can have a pair of public and private keys. So she signs on the message and attach the signature to the message. So the adversary can always tamper with the message, but in the end, the recipient, Alice, can detect tampering and abort the mission if necessary. So, and here, of course, it's all simplified for illustration purposes, because this is not really secure. It's subject to replay attack. Next, let's see how we can verify whether a person is the one who claims to be. Actually, we can do this using digital signature, as we talked about in the previous slides. So I just show you my signature, so you can be convinced that I'm really what I claim to be, right? But there are more options, right? In general, authentication can be like knowledge-based and based on the secret we share with other people, cryptographic-based, and biometric-based. Right. Sometimes we use them as a combination we call multi-factor authentication. But there was some controversy going on about whether the use of biometrics-based authentication, whether it violates the privacy regulations, and even worse, biological characteristics. They are inherent, means that we cannot change it. Or, we cannot change it or replace it once it's compromised. Let's say information security is not all about cryptography, and we should take into account human factors. The technician should always take care of their keys during the whole life cycle of the key, and we users should do our job by protecting our own secret, and typically it's passwords or the PIN. Right? So I'm sure other speakers will cover more. They are experts. Will cover more on these topics. Finally, I would like to conclude my talk with takeaway messages. For protection of information security, use the corresponding cryptographic tools. But this is not sufficient at all. We human beings should keep our secrets to ourselves. Like technicians, they should have very good sense of security awareness and technical knowledge. And users, they are encouraged to use like a strong password and take good care of their secrets. And in case that the secrets are compromised, please reset the password or revoke the tokens lost and or get them replaced. And this is my talk. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yu, for your insight on the cryptography. And now let's move on to our next speaker. Let's welcome Mr. Sergey Bazitiev, professor from the Department of Technologies of Information Security, St. Petersburg State University of Aerospace Instrumentation, Russia. His main research interests include coding theory and cryptography. Now, let's welcome. Please.
Okay, just a minute. Just a minute. Just a minute. It should be.
Yeah, we can hear you.
This one and just a minute. This one and this one. Okay. Okay, that's it's fine. You see the first page of the presentation. Okay, and I may start, I think.
Yes, please do.
Okay. So at first, thank you for an invitation to take part in this webinar, and thank you for Mr. Yu for the fine lecture about the cryptography, the basis of the cryptography. So I will talk only about where and how we can implement the cryptography for security and privacy in distance education. Okay, and that is not all what we want to protect, but that is only some details what we usually want to protect in distance education. First of all, that is information about the students. So usually the students want to protect the information where students from make access to the system, when students make access to the system, who ask the question, and how the student use educational materials. That is a very natural information which the student may want to protect because it is connected to his privacy. Next one, that is information about the teacher. Teacher also the private figure, and so he wants to protect the private information about himself. What may be this information? This may be information about where the teacher from make access to the system and when teacher make access to the system. Same as we may be interesting to protect information about the educational materials. For example, where from we take these educational materials, how often we will change these educational materials, and so on and so forth. Also, that is very important to protect the information about tests, quizzes and exams, and same as about the results of these quizzes and exams. What else? Else we want to obtain the confidentiality and accessibility of information which we use in the distance education. So it is natural that only authorized users should have access to the student academic resources, academic records, and this use the different rights. So the teachers can write and read all information about the student academic records. Students and their parents can read, but not write or change, and nobody can change or delete this information. Only authorized users should have access to student attendance records. Now, how cryptography can help us? As Mr. Yu said, that is one of the decisions that is encryption. and we can solve the protection by the encryption our information by using the symmetric or asymmetric ciphers for confidentiality. Also, we may use the multi-level and hierarchical control, access control systems for authorization control. And also we may use the multi-factor authentication for accessibility. Here we may use the passwords, some keys, and biometric and behavior, and a lot of factors, and construct some kind of the multi-factor authentication system for accessibility. Next one, that is a problem of integrity. What is the problems of integrity? First of all, that is nobody can change or delete any student academic records and student attendance records. And also everybody can verify the integrity of the information stored in the student academic records and records which connect with the attendance. What cryptography can give us as a help to solve these problems? First of all, that is a hash functions and digital signatures for authentication and integrity. Next one, that is a blockchain technologies, which are now very popular and which we may use for an open proof of the integrity. What properties else of the persons and information we want to protect? It is anonymity, exactly. The problems in anonymity, this may be who asks such crazy questions. For example, if we talk about the students. From what beach you want watch this lecture? So the students may be anywhere when he watch the lecture or ask for the questions. And students maybe don't want to show the place where he is. How many times you listen this trivial proof? This is also very important for the students when he try to understand some problem. He don't want to show how it was hard for him. Where from and at what time teacher check my exams? That is also the privacy for the teacher. How cryptography can help us? First of all, that is a private information driven protocols for information anonymity. Next one, that is onion protocols for place anonymity. And last one, but not least, that is a blind signatures for person anonymity. What else? Exactly, that is a problem with the fair tests, quizzes, and exams. Usually in the ordinary life, the exams, that is a lottery, and everybody wants to be sure that that is a right lottery, and so we should give the students such proof. Next one, that is exam is passed by this particular student and accepted by this particular teacher. And last one, you can't change the exam results, but you can check it. And how cryptography again can help us. First for the first aim, that is mental poker, that is some special protocol for honest questionnaire lottery. Next one, that is a biometric authentication for solve the problem with the particular student and teacher. And next one, that is a blockchain technologies for protect results of exam. And thank you for attention.
Thanks very much for your insightful speech, and I think we got a lot from your speech on the protection for distance education. And now let's move to the next one. Let's welcome our friend from Africa, Mr. Robert Abaka, professor from School of Computing and Informatics, University of Nairobi, Kenya. His research interests are mainly in issues around the use of ICT for development and also keen on the use of machine learning and mobile devices for the development. Do you have your slides to share, or you want?
Let me share. Let me share.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, you can share the slides. Just to share the screen.
Can you see it?
Yes, we can see. You can play it.
Okay. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share with other practitioners in online learning on this important topic on how to protect personal data and privacy in online learning, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic, because it is critical. It just came and people had to adjust on their feet. So just a little bit on Kenyan universities. Most of the universities had made efforts to adopt e-learning, online learning before COVID-19. And there have been some of them which have been successful, a few of them, I can say. But if you are to check the ones which are fully prepared or were fully prepared for offering courses online before COVID, maybe among the ones I know, they are not more than 3. And so most of the universities had to quickly adopt technologies so as to complete learning, which was mostly at the second semester, at the end of the year, last semester, at the end of the year. And most of the universities use Moodle as a learning management system, but there are others. This time, most of the learning has been either through synchronous learning platforms like Zoom, like Big Blue Button, or Google Classroom, that is Google Meet. Mostly that, or a blend of synchronous tools. Even before COVID, most of the universities had ODEL units, and they had programs and courses offered, but mostly on campus students. And some of them have distance learning with programs offered across the region. And some are even attempting to mostly devices are the students mostly use their devices on the university network to access learning, especially when using learning management systems. And of course, that is a recipe for trouble in terms of security. So in terms of importance of personal data and privacy, personal data, that is both demographic, which is domain independent, as well as domain dependent data, such as courses which are accessed and interaction during learning based on the courses.
Sir,
Hello?
We lost you.
Hear me?
Now we can, yes.
Okay, yeah, so yeah. quizzes, discussion forum posts, and things like that. And that personal data is very, very important for learner profiling. And those profiles can be used to adapt learning support that is provided during learning, administrative support for the learners, as well as other forms of learner support, and generally for understanding the learners. So personal data is personal to the learner, and it could be abused in many ways. For example, it could be altered to misrepresent the situation. In this case, learning for the learner, for that particular learner, or it can be used to reveal unfairly learn activities and progress, among other things. So in terms of e-learning platform security concerns, most developed e-learning platforms in our context are mostly concentrate on course development and delivery, and just a little bit of attention on privacy and security, but not so much. It is important, let me say that it's important to protect both, I mean,
Hello?
Professor, could you, we lost you again. Very, Professor?
And now,
Professor,
yes?
Could you
Can
stop
you hear me now?
video sharing? That would be better for getting the better voice.
Sorry?
Could you stop the video sharing? Because we lost your voice. So
okay.
Could you try again?
Okay, I'm not able to start the video.
No. It just keep going now. I just stopped your video. Yes.
Okay.
Please continue.
All right. So yeah. So it's important to protect the personal data of the student, of the learners, the lecturers as well on the platforms, the services from both those who are within the platform, such as fellow students and the instructors and administrators of the platforms, as well as external access. And so let me just mention some of the vulnerabilities from the point of view of the platforms we are using. So there is the possibility of performing different searches using search engines to access data, personalized data from within the systems. There is also the possibility of password cracking using decryption systems, as well as brute force for those who are malicious, web indexing of sites, and should not disclose certain features, for example, the connection to the database, as well as scripts. And it should also be possible, it should not be possible for session IDs to be accessed so as to protect the platforms from unauthorized connections. So some of the most, because that is the one used most, there is security which are not. And then we adopt the frequent updates for the platform, which assists in addressing any loopholes identified by the ones who are updating Moodle, as well as having a large community that is working towards improving Moodle, the platform, and making it secure. So that we also rely on that. Other things now include loading plugins, which are only when they are supposed to be used. The regular updates I mentioned, also backups, having good backups, using HTTPS for secure access to the pages for the platforms, strong passwords. So we're trying to enforce a strong password policy, as well as only allowing trusted users such as maybe the instructors or managers to be able to access privileged accounts on the servers. So, and then there is also firewall, firewall recommendations such as using dual firewall, deactivating services which are not in use, and also closing ports which are not needed, as well as to enable us to continue getting updates, registering at moodle.org. Yeah, so let me conclude by saying that mainly we use security features of the planning management systems. We mainly use security features of the LMSs, and then also rely on general network security features, password protection, urging users not to share passwords, urging them, reminding them not to log out, of course, after sessions, clearing the logs regularly. And let me just say that it is still at nascent stages, and a lot of focus goes into adoption of online learning. And this actually applies in universities as well as even corporate, because we also do training of, for example, like now during COVID, we are training health workers on how to manage patients. We are working with the Ministry of Health. So this also applies because we use the same platforms. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Robert, for your sharing, and I think the concrete solutions and some features of the learning management system are presented very insightful. And now let's move on to the next. We have the two distinguished speakers from the companies of Alibaba and Tencent. First, let's welcome Ms. Shan Ba, the senior security expert from Alibaba Cloud, China. Now, Shan, let's welcome. It's your turn.
Hi. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
please.
great. Hi, hi everyone. I'm Shan Pa from Alibaba Cloud. I'm very happy to be here. So it's really good to listen to many experts in this area that are presenting their ideas. So while more activity moved to digital world during the pandemic, the risks definitely increases as well as the latest report mentioning the hacking activity also increased that we hear a lot from news. So the information we share online is somehow more sensitive than the physical world. Not only mentioned, we have a lot of children participate in the online education activities. So which makes the protection of privacy in online learning more important nowadays. While some mentioned that online learning is popular before, but the whole pandemic just kind of made this accelerate the whole online learning adoptions. Mr. Schneider just mentioned earlier too, some of the risks that existing in the physical learning environment are now moved to online and to home as well. So which makes this area, the online education, the security and the privacy of it is more important. So after all, I think we all trained in general. For us, we all trained in working environments before the whole pandemic, that over and over, if not constantly, that do not click on the phishing link, beware of the spam email. This is the awareness training that we have been through every day or every year in the work life. But for online education, for kids at home, this is not the case. They're not trained to facing all the risks and vectors online. And then therefore they're also more vulnerable to those risks online as well. So for a platform perspective, what can we do to help in these situations? So security by default or privacy by default definitely become more important. You can't have privacy without security, and such protection should be in layers, from the physical security to infrastructure to network, application, or ultimately the data itself. Because one technology, one security method is no longer be able to protect all. Lately, we also heard about there are instances that even multi-factor authentication can be attacked as well. So we have to prepare ourselves in different layers of protection to ensure that the whole overall security experience for online learning. Alibaba Cloud, of course, we're very proud to be part of the Personal Data Security Technical Guide, which is a really good resource that provides very detailed information on the best practice in these areas. Technology ultimately is supposed to enable the online learning and enhance the experience, and it doesn't matter how complex the technology is. So after all, this is not one-way road, and all the parties has to put in efforts to advocate for the overall privacy for the online learning. And it's our honor to be here today and to be part of it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Shen, and for your sharing. And now let's go to the next expert, Mr. Tao Guo, who is the data security architect from Tencent, China. Now let's welcome Mr. Guo.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Wang.
Yeah.
And can we share my screen?
Sure, you can share your PowerPoint.
I cannot see the button. Sorry. Just go ahead. It's okay. Yes.
It's in the bottom. In the bottom, you can see the share the screen, the button.
I got it. I got it. Okay. Got it. All right. Can you see me?
Yeah.
Can you see my screen? Okay, got it. All right. Thanks. I'm Tao Guo from Tencent Security Platform Department. And I think all the experts already shared the rich experience about personal data security and privacy in learning online. And I know some of you are teachers or students, the end user of the learning platform. So today I want to share some security tips and hope it can help to protect your data. Yes. And the first one is encrypt your data. That's the important part to prevent the hacker from abusing your personal data and privacy information. There are several recommendations need you to follow. Take example, keep your browser secure. I think the one expert already played about that. And when entering your personal data into any website, check that the URL begin with the HTTPS. The S stands for secure. A lock icon on the status bar of your internet browser means your information will be safe when it's transmitted. So look for the log before you send personal information online. And another thing is enable your local disk encryption or encrypt your files, which has a sensitive information, sensitive data. There are many ways. Take example, you can enable the BitLocker on Windows computer. Yep, this is the first part about encrypt your data. The second one is secure your device. And it's a common issue when end user use their computer, tablet, smartphones, and any other device. And I think the expert already play about that, like BYOD devices. The most of the people can easily use their devices, but don't know how to use the security features, don't know how to secure their devices. So we recommend the first thing is to use security software, install like antivirus software, anti-spyware software, and firewall. Set your preference to update this protection often. Protect against the intrusion and infection that can compromise your computer files or password by installing security patches for your operating system and other software programs. The second one is the lock up your devices. The first principle is that please don't keep any personal information, personal data, or the privacy information on your device, only when necessary. So that means if you have to keep those sensitive information, please make sure you set a proper login username and password, and always log off when you left away from your devices. In this way, it will be harder for a thief or even a hacker to get your data. Even someday your device is retired or broken, that's also a good way to prevent unauthorized access. Yeah, the third one is use a strong and unique password, and it's recommended to use a strong password and to keep your password private. Sure thing, no one should be expected to keep all of their password straight based on memory alone, but that doesn't mean you should use the same one over and over. The length of the password should be at least 10 characters, and including like lowercase and uppercase characters, numbers, symbols, if permitted. And in Tencent, we always recommend the customer and recommend our system admin to use more than 60 characters as the password policy. The first one is don't trust free Wi-Fi. So this is an interesting topic. A question: how many of you ever use a free Wi-Fi to log in learning platform or application? Don't tell me the answer. Did you trust this free Wi-Fi? And the free Wi-Fi in Starbucks or McDonald's can seem like very reliable and being worth the trust. But the reality is that a hacker can also access those Wi-Fi, jump onto those guest Wi-Fi, and free Wi-Fi can give the hackers or the tools they need to monitor your activities. That being said, watching Netflix, Tencent video while on free Wi-Fi should be fine. But logging into your bank account, learning platform, and extra is not the same thing. On the other hand, should probably be avoided until you are back on a more secure system. Before you send personal information over your laptop or smartphone on a public wireless network in like a coffee shop, like library, airport, hotel, or other public place, see if your information will be protected. If you use the encrypted website, it protects only the information you send to and from that website. If you use a secure wireless network, and all the information you send on that network is protected. So the first one, avoid clicking on links or attachment. Avoid phishing email. Don't click the suspicious links. That's we already learned from the a classroom, right? Don't open files, click on links, or download the program sent by a stranger. Open a file from someone you don't know could expose your system to a computer virus or spyware that capture your password or other information you tap. So that's a very important part. And the sixth one is limit social media sharing. Keep one sentence in our map. And I like this sentence very much, is that once online, always online. So that means with anything you post online, it's all there for everyone to see. So be careful with identifiable information you use in your profile and which site you sign up to. The seventh is be aware of those monitors. So whatever the microphones or cameras you use in learning online, please keep in mind, they are probably always on. Sometimes it seems like being off, but it's running by a hacker. So please unplug or cover it when you don't use, like me, right? And the eighth one is beware of privacy settings and policy. You should know who you are sharing your information with, store and dispose your personal information securely. If someone asks you to share your personal information, please ask yourself why they need it, how it will be used, how they will protect it, or what happens if you don't share this information. The decision to share is yours, not the service, not the platform, not the application. So if you don't know what information you will provide to the third party, including the product or services, what can you do? Yep, the good way is to read their privacy policy. It's recommended to use to read a privacy policy if you want to know how the website, how the application, how the platform maintains access or control the personal information it collects, how it uses the information, and whether it provides information to third parties. The other way is that you regularly revisit the privacy settings on each of your learning accounts, including what information you share with a friend and the classmate, even the platform or services. The last one, and it's also the important one, ask. If you have any question, Google it. Don't keep suspicious data in a private without any actions. You should expose them and ask for help. If you are a student, at least you should let your teacher or parents be aware of that. So above all, there are 9 ways I can recommend to help to protect your personal data and privacy in online learning platform. So to talk about Tencent, as a learning service and platform provider, at Tencent, we all have always followed the principle of data for social good. Thereby, we use the data to benefit the users, to improve the product and the service that they use, to be compliant with laws and regulations. This principle ensures that user data remains private and protected. We believe that protecting the privacy of the user data is essential to creating a safe, world-class product and user experience. Our approach to data protection is supported by valid post privacy by design, security by design concept. So that means all our products and services are designed with a privacy protection from beginning. User data is protected by high-level security technology that extends across all our products and services during the entire data lifecycle. This includes ensure secure technology measures and the policies are in place during the stage of the data, like data creation, data collection, data transformation, data storage, usage, sharing, transfer, and destruction. In addition, where appropriate, we also leverage AI and other innovative technology to enhance our protection against the cybersecurity threat. That's a very important one. And our security technology is supported by security platform department, and that's also the department I was working on, and made up some of the world's leading data security experts who also cooperate with security research and partners all around the world through our online TSRC platform, the Tencent Security Response Center platform. So this logo illustrates our security platform, and application which has been developed by Tencent, and in order to protect the personal data security and privacy. Sorry, and their names are all in Chinese, not English. And because those the product is not to sell to the market, it's we use it inside of the Tencent. So our United Security Lab, a set of 7 dedicated facilities focused on research and develop technology to protect the data in the event of security target attack. And so our innovative housekeeping tool like Tencent PC Manager and Tencent Mobile Manager will actively ensure that private terminal data is kept secure. So, yep, and that's all thing that I want to share today. Thanks for listening. Yep.
Thank you very much, Mr. Guo, for your very practical solutions for the personal data protection. And I'd like to say, initially, we also have Mr. Wei Pingsun from the president from the Blackboard China to share his insights on the personal data protection, but as he's occupied in another meeting, so today he cannot make it. Maybe next time we can invite him for the further sharing. And now we have covered almost all of the sessions. And is there anyone who have any questions could ask questions to our experts? Anyone? You can open, maybe you can open your microphone to ask questions.
There is one question in the chat. If you look at the chat, the group chat.
Okay. There's one question. Normally, we won't read the privacy regulations carefully before web app registration. Does it matter in terms of security? Okay.
So is this a question for me, or is this a question for all guys?
Maybe you can give your response.
Okay, and yes, and this is a Titogo from Tencent, and I think we should read the private policy carefully. And take example, I want to share my screen as well. Take example. Okay, I cannot share my screen. It's okay. And before we use like the Tencent meeting, and you should read the security policy, the security like the privacy policy from the formal website about the Tencent meeting. And in this website, you will get how we protect the data, how we collect the data from you guys. So that's very important for you. And even if you want to like delete some data from like a Tencent meeting platform, and you should ask for help from this website contact. Yes.
Okay, thank you. And if there's no other questions, then let's go to our next section, the closer section. And let's invite Professor Huang to give us a talk for concluding today's webinar. Please welcome our co-dean of Smart Learning Institute of Beijing Normal University, Professor Huang. Now it's your turn, please.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Dear distinguished speakers and participants, welcome again, and our old friends and new friends. This is the 5th webinar we hosted in last 4 months. First, I appreciate all of you participated in the event. Thank you for sharing information, valuable ideas, suggestions, and comments. Secondly, I'd like to say why we organized this webinar and why we edited this handbook. Because of this critical situation due to COVID pandemic, hundreds of millions of students have to learn online. A large amount of personal data is shared, and also the hidden risks of personal data security are exposed. Personal data and privacy protection have never been so urgent like today, and it has been listed by UNESCO as one of the biggest challenges we are confronting. Therefore, how to protect personal data and privacy in online is becoming an important issue for students, teachers, and parents. Certainly, how to identify personal data and privacy during online learning. Eventually, in the process of online learning, personal data are produced through the interaction between students and teachers, tools, and platforms. Actually, many countries and organizations have formulated legislations, regulations, policy documents related to personal data protection. First, how to organize this handbook. Recently, UNESCO Institute of Information Technology Education has published the Personal Data Security Technical Guide for Online Education Platform. This technical guide is to outline key recommendations to online learning platform providers and the relevant education and the technical administration in terms of technical solutions, management, as well as awareness raising. In line with the technical guide published by IITE, this guidebook focuses on user end and to guide students, teachers, and parents to protect personal data and privacy in online learning. Just as Dejian mentioned in his talk and Lixin said in his presentation, we are trying to classify online learning as several typical steps, such as prepare devices, set up or in online platform, navigating learning platforms day by day, learning with social networking, and ending a course or finish your online learning. Then the potential risks of these kind of steps are identified and how to protect personal data and privacy are provided with guidance for all the students, teachers, and parents. Fifth, I'd like to share what I have learned for this webinar, especially on the perspective of education. So first, the value online learning should be noticed as you ensure incredible quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all is a sustainable development goal for 20th century Dejian. Online learning is the basic method to construct the roadmap to achieve this educational goal, not only during the period of educational emergency, but also for the period of post-pandemic and the future. Second, the personal privacy protection should be promoted. The basic literacy on personal data protection during learning online are important for basic personal data security. In order to promote the protection of personal privacy in online learning, government policy standards, industry technology system, and other stakeholders' action should be collectively build a safe environment for online learning. The third, learning online could be regarded as an important way to prepare for digital citizen. A digital citizen has the knowledge and skills to effectively use technology to communicate with each other. Participate in society and create and consume digital content. Guiding learners participate in an appropriate manner in online learning could prepare ready peacefully and scale the digital skill citizens. The fourth, collaboration skills could be drilled by cooperative learning in cyberspace. Individuals make meaning through the interaction with each other and with the environment they love. Online learning is not just to browse the content, but to interact with content, peers, teachers, and in the environments. Therefore, students could utilize tools and techniques to communicate with peers, teachers in cyberspace, and at the same time understand how to protect their personal data in communication process. The fifth, digital learning could be infused with the traditional education with flexible learning. Students could learn with free choice of times and locations, digital resources, instruction approaches, activities, and support services, which is a near future flexible learning paradigm. The influence of digital learning and the traditional learning is a guarantee for flexible learning. The study of the infusing including the personal data protection in the process should be shared to bring a bright future for the mankind. Finally, thank all of you for participating. Many thanks to Wang for moderating the webinar, and many thanks to my colleagues for their valuable works and efforts. Thank all of you. Have a good day. Have a nice evening. Thank you. Wang.
Thank you, Professor Huang, the closings. And I think today's webinar is very successful within just the 2 hours. And now I think it's time to say goodbye to all and keep in touch. And maybe we can find the cooperation opportunities together in the near future. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Colleagues.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Professor Robert, are you still online?
Yes, I'm still here.
Nice to see you. You know Professor Sergey, and we were together in Chengdu, in Dejian Forum.
Yeah, Chengdu.
Yes,
Wow.
with Professor
Yeah,
Wang and Professor Sergey.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for the welcome.
Yeah, the Dejian Forum was organized also by Professor Huang.
Oh, thank you. I really, really appreciate a lot of insights also. And I like that book. I'm going to look for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Stay in touch. Yeah.
We'll keep in touch.
Yeah, keep in touch.
An email. Yes.
Yeah.